What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another mock draft. It is mock draft Monday, a little bit later on this Monday, April 15th, as this morning we had some big Jets news as they have a new uniform and logo. So we covered that this morning and pushed mock draft Monday back a little bit. But with today's mock draft, it's going to be a little bit different for you guys. Unfortunately, well, both fortunately and unfortunately. Fortunate is we are almost at the NFL draft, and that is very, very exciting. The unfortunate part, there are only 2 more mock draft Mondays left, including today. So instead of using a simulator, which I've used the PFF simulator almost exclusively, because I think that's the closest to being the most accurate, but the tough part is it's very, very challenging to do a mock draft through a simulator and get like the perfect value. Sometimes the board doesn't necessarily fall the way that I think it should. And again, like I said, I think PFF does the best job in this, but these next 2, I'm not going to, or my final 2, I am not going to use a simulator for. I'm going to give you guys, though, at each spot who makes sense in that range, in my opinion, of guys who I think will be available, can go in that range, all those things. So let's get it started. The theme, by the way, for the last 2 mock drafts this week is what I would do if I'm the general manager for the New York Jets. So if we finally have one, right, where it's not like, oh, let's see if this happens or that. Like, this is the what Matt O'Leary would do. And next week is going to be a predictive mock draft of what I think is going to happen for the New York Jets on draft night. So here's what I would do. I am team trade back. There are many routes the Jets could go in the first round. They could trade up. They could trade back. They could stick and pick. They can go offensive line. They can go Brock Bowers. They can go a wide receiver. All 3 of those scenarios, I think you can make a very strong case for the New York Jets to do. As long as they are taking a player on the offensive side of the ball, on the offensive line, wide receiver, or Brock Bowers, I will come away more likely than not pretty happy on draft night. But this is what I would do, and this is my favorite scenario. So I would trade back with the Indianapolis Colts, who hold pick number 15. The package that I would offer, or the trade up that I think would make the most sense, is pick number 10 and pick number 134, which is the Jets' second, 4th round pick, for pick number 15 and 46. So the Jets move back 5 spots, pick up a 2nd rounder, and they give up a 4th round pick there, further back 4th round pick in the process. Is it a little bit expensive for the Colts? It is. It's essentially the value of like a 3rd round pick, the extra they are giving up in this trade. But a lot of times that is the cost of doing business for a team that wants to move up. And what are the Colts moving up for? Well, they were rumored to be looking for Brock Bowers. They could also use a wider receiver. They could also be looking to add at the cornerback spot. Those are probably the 3 most likely picks for the Indianapolis Colts, So in this scenario, they're moving up for one of those things. Maybe it's Brock, maybe it's a corner, or maybe it's a wider receiver that they don't believe is going to make it to them at pick number 15. But anyway, the Jets trade back and they pick up an extra 2nd round pick in the process. I would give the New York Jets at pick number 15, Troy Fautanu. I've made the case before on why I would go offensive line, but I will do it again now at this point. The New York Jets have 3 new starters on the offensive line, but they also have 3 question marks, in my opinion, on the offensive line. At left tackle, you have Tyron Smith, who, when on the field, is absolutely stellar. The chances of him playing more than 13 games this year, something he hasn't done since 2015, is pretty unlikely. He is going to miss significant time. Morgan Moses has mostly been an Iron Man in his career, although he did get banged up and missed 3 games this past season, and he had off-season surgery to fix a torn pectoral muscle. He is in his age 33 season. Both Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses are on 1-year deals or on the final year of their contract. And then you have Elijah Vera Tucker at right guard, who I absolutely adore. I love Elijah Vera Tucker. Unfortunately, he has missed significant time and had season-ending injuries in each of the last 2 seasons. I like Joe Tippmann a lot. I think he is going to be a solid center. He was banged up and missed time. John Simpson played last year, but John Simpson projects to be the weakest link on this offensive line. He, I think, at his best, can be a serviceable starter. He's going to be penalized a lot. He might have some weak points in the passing attack. People are going to love him in the run game, though, because he plays with a nastiness. And I think Fotanu could, at an absolute minimum, push John Simpson and potentially start at left guard right away. Or if not, he is going to end up getting on the field when one of, if not both, of your tackles end up missing time. The chances of you just having your starting 5 play an entire 17-game season is incredibly low to begin with. But then add in the fact that the Jets have had one of the worst injury lucks on the offensive line over the last 2 seasons. They used 13 different offensive linemen last year. I'm going to put the emphasis on the offensive line. Is it maybe overkill because of how many times they've used first-round picks on the offensive line? You can make that case. I get it. Like, they used a second-rounder on Tippmann last year, Elijah Vera Tucker in 21, Mekhi Becton in 2020. The unfortunate reality is they don't have very many long-term answers on this offensive line, and I love Fotanu's versatility that he could offer, being someone who could play guard or tackle. With the second-round pick number 46 that I acquired in the trade back, I am drafting Ricky Pearsall, the wide receiver out of Florida. He stands 6'1", is 189 pounds, and has honestly pretty good speed. 4.41 speed is pretty nice numbers for someone that size. He's a really good separator, which I absolutely love. I think that fits well for a guy like Aaron Rodgers. He's elusive with the ball in his hand, so while he's not someone who's like, has elite speed in the, 4.2s or even like low 4.3s. 4.41 speed is above average. That's good. But he's also elusive when he has the ball in his hands. He has good inside and outside versatility, good hands as well. I think Ricky Pearsall would fit in as a number 2 wide receiver that you could move around your formation. And I get it. I know Jet fans are going to be hurt by ghosts of wide receivers in the second rounds past. Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims. You had Devin Smith in 2015, Stephen Hill in 2012. None of them really worked out for the Jets. Just because you had past failure doesn't mean that you should just go, oh, well, we're not going to try that ever again. Learn from it. Scout better. Find talent in the second round. There is talent. This is a really deep wide receiver class. There are guys who are going to get picked on day 2 who have immediate impacts in the NFL. Find one. And I think Ricky Pearsall could be that for the New York Jets in their offense. All right, next pick, round 3, pick 72. I'm going to go Dwayne Carter, defensive tackle out of Duke. So first defensive player off the board this draft early on, and just the spoiler for the majority of it, is going to have a heavy focus on the offensive side of the ball. But the Jets do need depth at a couple of spots on the defensive side, and the interior defensive line is one of those spots. Carter's 6'2", 302 pounds. He is a very good run defender and projects as a rotational piece on early downs in the NFL. He was a 3-year captain at Duke, very well respected by his teammates. He's a leader. That is the kind of things that we've seen Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh gravitate towards when they've drafted these guys. They like guys who are leaders. They like guys who are captains. They like high character guys. I think Dwayne Carter absolutely fits that bill. Defensive tackle out of Duke. Some people are probably going to think it's a little early for a defensive player, and especially for an interior defensive line player, but this is the range where I think you could find talented run stoppers in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. And the Jets have Leaky Fotu on a 1-year prove-it deal as a run-stopping guy. That's fine, but I don't know how long if he's going to be here beyond just this season. They also added Javon Kinlaw, who is more of that pass rusher from the interior, and they also have Solomon Thomas on the interior, but that's someone else who's not really great against the run. They could still use some help for guys on early downs who can play, and Dwayne Carter, I think, fits that bill for them in the third round. Okay, in the fourth round is where I am going to take my developmental quarterback. My favorite of the bunch is Michael Pratt out of Tulane. Pratt, Spencer Rattler, Jordan Travis. Any of those three guys I am comfortable with taking a day 3 swing on. Spencer Rattler I think is going to go a little bit earlier. So it comes down to Pratt versus Jordan Travis. Here's what I like about Michael Pratt. He's 6'2", 217 pounds. He's a 4-year starter, 3-year captain, has 4.65 40 speed. So he does have some speed with his legs, and when he tucks it and runs, he can make plays with his feet, but he's not just a runner. He uses his speed and movability in the pocket. Is that the right word? But like, I like how he maneuvers around the pocket with his speed. He's not someone like specifically like Zach Wilson for the perfect example. Unfortunately, at the NFL level, when the pocket began to collapse, he would spin out, drop 100 yards behind the line of scrimmage and try to make plays. Michael Pratt is not afraid to step up into the pocket and use his mobility and his legs that way instead of bailing out. He doesn't have great size, which is why he's, we're talking about a 4th round quarterback and not a 1st round quarterback prospect. He doesn't have the biggest arm, but he's fairly accurate. I like his mobility, and I think he's someone who, at worst case scenario, could be a decent enough backup quarterback for you. Sit him behind Aaron Rodgers for 2 years. Sit him behind Tyrod Taylor for 2 years, and you just never know. You don't know. Dak Prescott was a 4th round pick. Kirk Cousins was taken outside of the 1st round. Brock Purdy was a late round pick. Russell Wilson was a 3rd round pick. There's examples of it working. Everyone talks Tom Brady, 6th round pick. Yes, you are more likely to hit on the quarterback in the 1st round. It is challenging to hit on day 3 quarterbacks, extremely challenging. But the Jets haven't had much luck in the 1st round. So who knows? Maybe how funny would it be if the Jets, who spent, 1st round picks, Sam Darnold 3rd overall, Zach Wilson 2nd overall, and it's a 4th round pick that ends up being the long-term starting answer. You never know, but even if that doesn't work out and he's your backup quarterback, well, guess what? When you're looking for that next guy in 2026, he's someone who's been in the system for a couple of years, and can maybe be a spot starter and help give good habits to that young player that he learned from Tyrod Taylor, who is one of my favorite backup quarterback spot starters in the league, and Aaron Rodgers. Okay, round 6, pick 185. I'm going to go Ladarius Henderson. He's a tackle guard, probably guard at the next level, out of Michigan. He played offensive tackle in college, but as I said, probably projects more as a guard at the next level. Really, really good size. He has 7'1" wingspan, so he has really long arms. The reason why he's going so late is because he's very raw. He has an above average physical traits, but he's not very consistent. His tape isn't great on paper, which again is why he's the 6th round pick. When you're getting to this spot, like, it'd be unfair of me to talk up these prospects like their 1st or 2nd round level talents. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But you are betting on day 3. You bet on traits and things that you like out of a player. I like his size. I think there's something intriguing there. Can you make a case that, well, maybe Keith Carter's not the right guy to develop him? Okay, yeah, fair. But can they use more depth at this position? And is it good to have someone who has positional flexibility who could play tackle and guard? Yeah. It is. So I think it's worth the swing on a guy like that. Okay, last 2 picks in the draft in the 7th round, pick 256, Josh Proctor, safety out of Ohio State. It's a player that I feel like I've talked about for years because, well, he's been in college for a long time. He's 25 years old. I know he's old. I usually don't like going that route, but it's at a position of need. And someone who's had some success in college, he has solid speed. He's good as a blitzer as well. He's pretty athletic. But the downside is that he's already 25 years old. So this is someone who's probably just depth. You brought back Ashton Davis for a year, which is good. Don't know what you have in Tony Adams. I like Chuck Clark a lot, but health is a concern. They could use more at the position. I like Proctor. I think he's worth a gamble on day 3 in the NFL draft. Now for the Mr. Irrelevant pick, Jordan Whittington, wide receiver out of Texas, 6'1", 205. He has solid speed. He's not crazy top-end speed, but solid enough. A violent runner with the ball in his hands. What he has to work on, though, his route running isn't great, and his timing. It just seems a little bit off. He has big playability because the speed and the violent running with yards after the catch. But if he's going to have success at the next level, he has to be better as a route runner. And you're not going to get the trust of Aaron Rodgers if you're not in the right spots and your timing is off. So that would be something that he would have to work on. Again, we're talking about a seventh rounder / maybe UDFA type of guy. That's what Jason Brownlee was. That's, what Xavier Gibson was. Can they turn into something? Sure, they can. Maybe this guy's just, a nothing burger. That happens sometimes with seventh rounders. But again, on day 3, you're looking for some traits to buy into. And Jordan Whittington, violent runner, good speed. That's what I'm targeting there. So let me know your thoughts on this mock draft of what I would do in the NFL draft. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary. Catch you guys next time.